To start this video off, I'm going to show you a picture of Matt Stafford. Now, why would I do that? Well, according to a few studies, Matt Stafford is the average NFL quarterback. I'm not talking in terms of his play on the field, but specifically about his measurables. He stands at 6'3" and 220 pounds, which lines up almost identically with the average height and weight of an NFL quarterback. With most of these dudes falling between 6'2" to 6'5", people tend to agree that this range is the proper size for a quarterback. But what happens when you go just a few inches outside that range? The number of quarterbacks drops dramatically. MaxPrep's data from 2016 shows us that at the college level, with every inch you go down or up, there's a significant drop-off to where less than 4% of quarterbacks at the highest level of college football were under 5'11", and less than 3% were above 6'5". This left me thinking about these outliers and their potential pros and cons. For example, tall quarterbacks having the best vision over their offensive line to see the field. This would be an area where short quarterbacks would struggle, but short quarterbacks would have the best mobility among their peers. So, historically, is it better to have an abnormally tall NFL quarterback or an abnormally short quarterback? We're going to kick things off by looking at the tallest NFL quarterbacks of all time. But first, this video is brought to you by Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering awesome boxes of top-shelf goods from under-the-radar brands. It's free to join, and every box has around $70 in retail value, but only costs $45. I was lucky enough to receive a few really cool boxes from them, including the Chop Box, which came with a tempered high-carbon stainless steel cleaver, along with an Ulu knife, perfect for vegetables. They also sent me the Weekender bag, which looks sleek, feels durable, and now I keep it ready to go for a quick getaway trip. Another thing that caught my eye that I can't wait to receive is the Flame Box, which just looks epic. You can preview your box before it's shipped. From there, you'll be able to decide whether you A, want to keep it, B, swap it for a different box, or C, skip a month entirely for no charge. You only have to pay for what you want. With box lineups constantly changing on a monthly basis, check out Bespoke for yourself. And to get 20% off your first box, click the link in the description and enter code KTO20 at checkout, or go to bspk.me/KTO20. In the history of the NFL, there have only been 6 total quarterbacks that have been listed above 6'6". I speculate this is primarily due to the rarity of being that tall in the first place. But anyways, all 6 of these quarterbacks were listed at 6'7", the tallest of which was Dan McGuire. McGuire's combine measurables had him listed just a quarter inch under 6'8", along with weighing over 240 pounds. He played his college ball at San Diego State, and his tremendous measurables helped him become one of the top prospects entering the 1991 NFL Draft. Also, this draft class for quarterbacks had some very interesting names at the top. Obviously Dan McGuire, the tallest quarterback prospect in NFL history, and had a brother Mark, who was dominating pro baseball at the time. Then you had Todd Marinovich, the dude who later had a 30 for 30 made about the chaos of his high school and college days. And then lastly, Brett Favre, the dude who had crazy arm talent, but only threw a whopping total of 7 touchdowns his senior year at Southern Miss. Dan McGuire would go on to be the first quarterback selected in 1991, but despite his size and incredible arm strength, he barely saw the field his rookie season. The coaching staff was unimpressed with what they saw at practice, so he spent most of the time that year as a third stringer. McGuire finally got more time on the field his second year, but he played at a Nathan Peterman-like level and sustained a season-ending injury in his second game. Eventually, after a total of 5 NFL seasons, McGuire only started 5 games before he was out of the NFL entirely. He's considered one of Seattle's biggest first-round busts ever. The team had already drafted another quarterback after McGuire had only started 1 game. Fun fact, of the top 3 quarterbacks in that 1991 class, Brett Favre produced the least amount for the team that he was drafted for. But Brett Favre did go on to make 11 Pro Bowl appearances with his second team. The other 12 quarterbacks from that class combined for 0 Pro Bowls. Other than Dan McGuire, the other 5 quarterbacks that were 6'7" weren't that much more impressive. The ones who had the most success were Brock Osweiler and Mike Glennon, who were below average starters at best and mostly backups. Most of these dudes received some level of hype due to their size, and almost all of them failed to live up to any expectations. So overall, when you look at quarterbacks 4 inches taller than the average, there hasn't been a single Pro Bowler. But what happens when we look at the same size difference below the average?
To the 10, 5, touchdown!
According to Pro Football Reference, there have been 61 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that were 5'11" and under to start at least one game, and only 7 of those began in the Super Bowl era, the shortest of which are Doug Flutie and Kyler Murray. Let's first take a look at Flutie. Flutie finished up his college career in 1984, where he won the Heisman Trophy and wowed scouts with his performances. He received comments such as, "Can do things other quarterbacks can't do. Very good arm. If Flutie were 6 foot, he'd be the #1 overall pick." He entered the draft around 5'9" and a relatively tiny 175 pounds. That's unheard of for a quarterback. Most NFL teams were scared to pick him due to his size. This was all happening at a unique time in pro football, because another league, the USFL, was well underway and looking to attract big names more than anything. They ended up offering Flutie the largest rookie contract in any sport at the time, and Flutie went on to accept. But the league dissolved after 1 year of Flutie joining, so he decided to take a shot in the NFL. And in 3 years, he started 13 out of 48 total games. And at this point, it seemed as if the critics were right. He hadn't been good in the USFL or the NFL. His size had played a factor in his ability on the field, and he struggled to play well. He washed out of the league and had to resort to playing in Canada. Crazy enough, after 8 seasons in the Canadian Football League, Flutie was so dominant, he has become known as arguably the league's greatest player ever. He was so amazing that at the age of 36, he received another shot at the NFL. And in his return, not only did he win the starting job for the Buffalo Bills, but he went on to lead them to the playoffs and earned a Pro Bowl appearance in 1998. If something like this happened today, it would be the biggest story in sports this year. The following season was much of the same. He led the Bills to a 10-5 record, which was good enough to clinch a playoff berth with 1 game remaining. Then, that's where things took a bizarre turn. Buffalo's backup was Rob Johnson, whom they had paid a bunch of money for when they also brought in Flutie. He started that final game in 1999 that didn't matter, and he did play well. But all of a sudden, Ralph Wilson, the owner of the Bills, demanded that Rob Johnson start over Flutie in the playoffs. So that's what happened, and they went on to lose due to the Music City Miracle. The same type of thing happened the following year, where Flutie went 4-1 as a starter, but mostly sat behind the inferior Rob Johnson, who struggled mightily. That decision to bench Flutie is looked back on as one of the worst NFL decisions of all time. Just listen to this amazing stat I found on footballperspective.com. From 1998 to 2000, Flutie had the highest winning percentage of any starter in the NFL, but when he sat on the bench, Buffalo had the worst winning percentage of any franchise in the league. This is insane. It really makes you wonder why they benched this dude. It makes zero sense. Flutie did go on to play into his 40s for the Chargers, and he played his final season at the age of 43 in New England as the backup to Tom Brady. Ultimately, because he was abnormally undersized, NFL teams were hesitant, and he was never fully backed by an NFL organization, despite proving himself in the end. But the one thing that he did help with was carving a path for guys like Russell Wilson. Wilson received similar treatment that Flutie did before entering the league. He was given all the praise for his elite level instincts and skill set, but his height was seen as a limiting factor, and this caused him to drop to the 3rd round. But unlike Flutie, Wilson was fully trusted in the NFL. and he proved himself right away. Nearly a decade later, Russell Wilson has been one of the most reliable starters in the NFL, making up for that lack of size with his scrambling ability, awareness, and football instincts. Because of the work that Flutie had done, it helped pave the way for Russell Wilson, which then helped pave the way for the #1 overall pick in 2019, Kyler Murray. Out of all three of these dudes, Murray is easily the most freakish as an athlete. He runs a 4.3 and is insanely quick. He also has the strongest arm of these three and is fortunate to be entering the NFL at this time. This is an era in the NFL where unique athletes at quarterback are being more trusted than ever. If this had been 10 to 15 years ago, Murray might have been seen as a later round pick and would have most likely chosen baseball. But luckily, we get to see him ball out. So clearly, abnormally short quarterbacks have outperformed tall guys by a landslide. And at the end of the day, tall guys, although rare, will often be looked at as a dreamlike prospect and be overhyped by scouts and coaches more often than not, as opposed to small guys who are often overlooked. This helps them develop a chip on their shoulder from a young age. Plus, with the game moving towards athleticism at the quarterback position, small guys benefit more than ever, which makes sense. You're probably never going to see a dude who's 6'7" making a play like this.
Keep going. Now that their game's going to mean a lot. Wilson's got space. Got nobody downfield though. Making it up. Cue the circus music. Wilson throw it for Baldwin. Oh my goodness, he caught it. And there goes Baldwin down the sideline.